Yeah, we all got the news this morning of the passing of Pope Francis. So in this video, we're gonna be looking at the life and legacy of this Pope and get some news reports on the upcoming conclave as well. So let's go ahead and get started. It is good to see that someone from the administration showed up to visit this ailing Pope on Easter Sunday. Uh, Unlike the homecoming of our four fallen soldiers from Lithuania, um, it kind of misses me a little bit on why it was J.D. Vance. I think he's from like a Hindu family. We have a so-called Christian president who sells Bibles with his name in them. I think would have been more fitting for the Christian president to show up to visit this ailing Pope on Easter Sunday. But this president always misses. He misses on the big things all the time. And this is just another one. But he's claiming he's going to show up at the funeral. Funny how you want to show up at the funeral while a man has passed away, but on Easter Sunday you couldn't plan a visit to visit this ailing Pope. Okay, we'll continue.
Happy Easter.
Carissimi fratelli e sorelle, con profondo dolore devo annunciare la morte del nostro Santo Padre Francesco. Alle ore 7:35 di questa mattina, il Vescovo di Roma Francesco è tornato alla casa del Padre. La sua vita tutta intera è stata dedicata al servizio del Signore e della sua Chiesa. Ci ha insegnato a vivere i valori del Vangelo con fedeltà, coraggio e amore universali, in modo particolare a favore dei più poveri ed emarginati. Con immensa gratitudine per il suo esempio di vero discepolo del Signore Gesù, raccomandiamo l'anima del Papa Francesco all'infinito amore misericordioso di Dio uno e trino.
We are remembering Pope Francis this morning after his death at the age of 88. Let's give you a live look at St. Peter's Square this morning, where crowds are gathering as the world mourns the loss of the Pope on this Easter Monday. Good morning. Thank you for joining us here today. I'm Alex Maragos. Marian is off today. We have complete coverage of the death of Pope Francis. This is an expanded one-hour newscast for you this morning. From the Vatican to right here in Chicago, we're covering every angle for you with live team coverage today. Marianne Ahern and Chuck Gowdy will join me here in the studio as we're reflecting on the Pope's life, his legacy, and also what comes next from here. Lisa Chavarria is going to start us off. She's live at Holy Name Cathedral, where she's covering the first Mass that'll be happening there since the Pope's death, overnight Chicago time. We also have Sandra Torres live in Des Plaines at the Shrine of Our Lady of Guadalupe. And Telemundo Chicago's Jorge de Santiago is live in Pilsen with the loss of the first Latin American Pope. We're going to start here first with Marianne Ahern's look back at the life of Pope Francis.
Francisco. Jorge Bergoglio was chosen to be Pope in March 2013, taking the name Francis. The son of Italian parents, he was raised in Argentina. After becoming a Jesuit priest, he rose through the ranks to become the Cardinal of Buenos Aires and eventually the first Latin American Pope who immediately represented change.
He spoke of how the church needs to be a field hospital, that the church can't be locked up in its four walls, self-referential, talking to itself.
Francis's message centered around living simply, embracing the poor. On one of the most divisive issues within the church, when asked about a gay priest, Francis said, "Who am I to judge?"
It did touch a nerve. So it's not only just to people who are gay and lesbian, the LGBTQ community, but it's also people who are divorced and remarried, folks who are struggling with life.
The first in 600 years to take over after a papal retirement, Francis considered more liberal than Benedict. He visited the United States once, speaking to Congress, and huge crowds attended masses in New York and Philadelphia. Francis expanded roles for women in the church, but did not support women priests. He also spoke out against the invasion of Ukraine and denounced President Trump's deportation policies, even sparring with Vice President J.D. Vance.
Pope Francis had a remarkable ability to connect with people and to make people feel like he understood them and that he was working with them and praying with them. His loss is really a devastating personal loss for many.
After the funeral, there will be a conclave at the Vatican, a secret meeting with 138 of the world's cardinals under the age of 80 who will choose the next pope.
People are going to look back on this papacy as a historic moment in the life of the church, much like we did with Pope John the 23rd. It offers us a turning point.
And the world's nearly 1.4 billion Catholics wait to see who will succeed Francis.
Marianne's joining us now on the set to continue the conversation about the Pope's life.
This Pope life legacy seems to me is going to be that he did not want to leave anyone behind. He tried his best to speak out for the marginalized, the less fortunate, and he did not shy away from that. So to remember this Pope, I think we're going to just have to say that he was very outspoken, and he did not worry about the backlash, and he said what he wanted to say. And I think he did a lot of things that he thought Jesus would do in some of those moments. And we're going to see who's going to be his successor, but this Pope has laid down his legacy, and I think it's going to be one to be respected.
Life and legacy. What are you taking away, Marianne?
Well, there's so much in all of this to unpack, but because of his mission of the marginalized, the poor, to reach those who have not necessarily been reached before, I think that has got to be his biggest legacy.
Yeah, and he never shied away from politics, always seemed to be talking about modern times and what needed to be done in the real world, even just this last weekend.
Even this past weekend when he met with J.D. Vance. At first, J.D. Vance met only with the Secretary of State, and we were told, quote, there was an exchange of opinions because it was the Pope who was so concerned about the deportations. Then last minute, just yesterday, the Pope met with J.D. Vance very briefly, but yes, he did meet with him.
Talking about migrants, talking about other issues I know that was near and dear to the Pope's heart. Women in the church has been a big topic, of course, over the last 10, 20, 30 years. Where did he stand on that? Some change, but not a ton of change, right?
Well, there more women than ever have been sort of, would you say, promoted within the church. So, yes, women did receive more roles than anyone had ever given, another pope had ever given before. Sister Raffaella is now the first Secretary General of Vatican City, and there is a discussion of women deacons, but that has not happened. And of course, there are not women ordained priests. So that is uncertain as far as whether or not we will say, boy, he was a huge champion of women.
Right. Chuck Gowdy's going to come here at 11:30. We're really going to dig into that point, to the conclave, about what happens next from here. But there is going to be a Chicago element, of course. You interviewed Cardinal Cupich there talking about Pope Francis's life. What other Chicago connections are there going to be?
There will be 3 different cardinals from Chicago, not only Cupich, Wilton Gregory, as well as Robert Prevost. They are part of the voting cardinals. And yes, while no one really anticipates an American to become the next pope, these 3 Chicagoans play a very pivotal role. Cupich, as someone who is considered a friend of the Pope, Prevost is a top Vatican official, and then Wilton Gregory, one of the only Black American cardinal. And while he is no longer, he is retired, but he's under the age of 80, he is allowed to be a voting member.
So he'll get a vote.
They will all shape who is next.
And you've covered the church for decades, both the Chicago connection and broadly the Catholic Church. You're going to be going to Rome for this conclave.
I will be there for the conclave. Yeah. Yes, we were there at the last one. It'll be quite interesting, and we'll keep an eye on what happens.
Looking forward to everything that comes from that. Marianne, thank you so much for this morning. Now, of course, the end of Pope Francis's life is really the beginning of an age-old Catholic tradition, the process of selecting his successor. And NBC5 Investigates has what happens next, has been looking into leading contenders. Our investigative reporter, Chuck Gowdy, here has been covering the Vatican and the church for decades. and joins us here with some insight. So, Chuck, what can we expect from this point here?
Alex, who's next isn't just a favorite dinner party topic in Rome. The papal selection process is always underway, with names floated and cardinal contenders from the relatively small group of top Catholic churchmen who make up the College of Cardinals. And while it is an election, it is not a democracy. Rank and file Catholics don't get a vote. The next pope is chosen by 135 voting-age cardinals who were just invited by the Vatican to begin arriving tomorrow morning in Rome. Cardinals, the men in red caps and vestments, gather in a Vatican City conclave, as it's known, to begin electing a new pope. 2 to 3 weeks from now, following the pope's funeral, as the current Hollywood movie Conclave portrays, they report to the famous Sistine Chapel for a closed-door, non-public selection. Eligible cardinals are those younger than age 80, and they choose the 267th pope by secret ballot. And here are the leading contenders right now, according to experts and even betting line odds, although these are guesstimates at best. Luis Antonio Tagle, a 67-year-old archbishop from the Philippines, known as the Asian Francis, because he lines up on the late Pope's social justice views. Pietro Parolin from Italy, 70 years old, considered more moderate and the Vatican Secretary of State right now. Peter Turkson from Ghana, age 76, would be the first African pope since 496 AD. Peter Erdo, Hungary, 72 years old, leading conservative candidate, would be a shift back to the Pope John Paul positioning. And Angelo Scola, Italy, an 82-year-old cardinal and perennial possibility, but he may have aged out. There, of course, are others in the running, and these are all cautionary possibilities. Remember, when the very popular Pope John Paul II was elected in 1978, he wasn't on anybody's list. So look for the long shot, the unknown, who might rise up and become a consensus figure. That's also how it plays out in the movies.
Was Francis considered a sure thing when he was elected, or was he also a long shot to become pope?
Right. He was not considered to be the front runner. He was on the list. He was, the odds makers had him someplace as a possibility. But lately, it's been a little bit more scattered. And this time it may well be also because the world is much more adequately represented in the College of Cardinals these days.
And really quick, white smoke means or black smoke, what are we looking for?
Black smoke means they're still voting. White smoke means there's a new pope.
Need to be brushed up on that. It's been a couple of years. Thank you so much, Chuck. I appreciate it.
Wow, there's something how at least the Cardinals they put up on the screen range from age 67 up to 82. Look like they go more for wisdom over youth. But the conclave that they're speaking of about electing the next pope, there's a movie out right now called The Conclave, and it highlights, well, it gives the insight on how that process happens behind the scenes and all of the infighting and a little bit of backstabbing on the selection process over many votes. So I kind of recommend that you guys see the movie. Conclave is out on all of the media apps right now, and I know you will enjoy it, and you will be brought up to speed on what's going to be happening in about 2 to 3 weeks when they elect this new pope. So we're going to be mourning the loss of this pope for the next 2 to 3 weeks, and then there'll be a new one elected through the conclave. So let's just pay our respects, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Thank you. I ask you guys to like and subscribe and share with your friends.